Good evening and welcome everyone. I would request all the staff members to keep their videos off and be on mute mode for uninterrupted and flawless program. Let us begin our program with a prayer.
हे शारदे मां, हे शारदे मां, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे मां। हे शारदे मां, हे शारदे मां, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे मां। तू स्वर्ग की देवी है, संगीत तुझसे, हर शब्द तेरा है, हर गीत तुझसे। तू स्वर्ग की देवी है, संगीत तुझसे, हर शब्द तेरा है, हर गीत तुझसे। हम हैं अकेले, हम हैं अधूरे, तेरी शरण में हमें तार दे मां। हे शारदे मां, हे शारदे मां, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे मां। अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे मां। अज्ञानता से हमें।
Now I would request Mrs. Amita Bhagwat to tell us about Shikshan Katta. Over to you, Amita ma'am.
थँक्यू ललिता. शिक्षण कट्टा संस्थेचे सन्माननीय कार्यकारी विश्वस्त श्री सुरेंद्र दिघे सर यांच्या कल्पनेतून साकार झालेला शिक्षण विषयक विचारमंथन करणारा हा व्हर्च्युअल प्लॅटफॉर्म. महिन्याच्या पहिल्या शनिवारी आम्ही सगळेच जण या कट्ट्यावर भेटतो, अर्थातच व्हर्च्युअली. आणि या शिक्षण कट्ट्याचं आजचं हे 7वं पुष्प आहे. तुम्हा सगळ्यांना माझा मनापासून नमस्कार. या कट्ट्याची सुरुवात आपण केली होती नॅशनल एज्युकेशन पॉलिसी समजून घेण्यापासून. त्याच्यानंतर अनेक विषयांवर चर्चा आपण इथे केल्या आणि आज आपण चर्चा करणार आहोत ब्लेंडेड एज्युकेशन विषयी. ॲज वी ऑल नो, ड्यू टू दिस पेंडॅमिक, हाऊ एव्हरीथिंग ऑल ओव्हर द वर्ल्ड came to a sudden pause. The pause was very, very uncertain. We had to shift our classroom schooling to online schooling. This was not an easy transition for us. With no proper training, no prior experience, no proper technical support, still we managed to cope up with it through, though we initially not very much ready for it. But after realizing the gravity of situation, we started preparing ourselves for this change with the help of social media, Google, discussions with our friends, and sometimes even taking help from our students. All the honorable trustees of Saraswati Mandir Trust are very supportive and they welcome any positive change readily. They carry the legacy of quality education forward. As the respected founder of this trust, late Mrs. Vimlatai Karve, who was a true visionary, who had started a school in 1952 in Naupada for imparting quality education. The trust has come a long way since then. By maintaining pace with the time, we as an educational organization are proud to have our own sports complex. We have a well-equipped 6-storied new building for Marathi medium school. The trust is running CBSE Board's English medium school since 2015. I really feel happy to inform you, Revati ma'am, that this year is the birth centenary year of our late founder, Mrs. Vimlatai Karve. She always wanted the teachers to keep themselves upgraded. Now, talking about this online schooling, we feel that it's a good thing that we could reach to the children with the help of technology, with the help of internet. But what about their learning? Are they really learning? How effective is it actually? Or is it merely an inkling? We are curious to know how we can combine our traditional classroom methods with computer mediated activities. Thank you. Over to you, Lalita.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Amita Bagwe. Now I would request our principal ma'am, Ruta Joshi ma'am, to introduce the guest speaker for today's event. Over to you, Ruta ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Think back to when you were at school. What do you remember? A favorite teacher, your friends, or lessons that you enjoyed? What do you think today's students will think about in 10 years' time when they look back at their school days? Education and students have faced one of the most difficult periods in its history. Schools have been shut down, teachers and students both told to stay away for long periods of time, and the sudden introduction of a new beast, technology. While students are well versed in the modern language of TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, a few teachers are yet to fully embrace technology within the classroom. Technology has the potential to bolster and improve our current education system if we are ready to embrace it wholeheartedly. From offices to campuses, the COVID-19 pandemic has taken everything online. Although we are missing interacting and socializing in person, this virtual collection has helped maintain a sense of community. As we move towards education amidst a global pandemic, blended learning is clearly the way forward. Though the concept has been around for some time now, COVID 19 had just been a catalyst for all of us to adapt to it and thrive. In simple words, blended learning is a combination of online versus offline learning. Our guest for today, Mrs. Revati Srinivasan, is here to help us understand the concept of blended learning and how to implement it to bridge the gap in learning. Education is beyond qualifications. It is about wings to fly high, yet roots to keep grounded. Each word of this quote speaks a lot about believing in oneself and achieving excellence in every task we do. Our chief guest not only firmly ascribes to this school of thought, but also strongly applies it to her life and career. So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together while we welcome Mrs. Revati Srinivasan, Director of Education and the Principal of Srimati Sulochana Devi Singhania School, Thane. Ma'am, we welcome you to Shikshan Katta of Saraswati Mandir Trust, Thane. Mrs. Revati Srinivasan is a passionate educationist, heading one of the most premium educational institutions in India, Srimati Sulochana Devi Singhania School, Thane, Maharashtra, India. She began her career as a teacher and currently heads two ICSE schools and an IB school in Thane and an ICSE school in Vapi. Under the able leadership of Revati ma'am, Singhania School's innovative practices have been recognized by none other than IIM Ahmedabad and University of Aalborg, Denmark. Ma'am is a management graduate holding specialized degrees in education management, early child development, and MPhil. Being a voracious reader, coupled with innate oratory skills, she has been delivering keynote speeches at various Indian forums, education conclaves, and international universities like the Quality Council of India, University of Aalborg, Denmark, Education Council of Scotland, etc., to name a few. She conducts various training programs as well as study and life skill programs for students and teachers in India and abroad. She regularly writes for national newspapers on education and has plenty of books on education and parenting to her credit. Her specialities and focus areas are curriculum design and development, academic leadership, innovative practices, guide and mentor to teachers in their personal and professional growth, setting up new schools under the Singhania banner, running rehabilitation centers, initiate twinning programs between Singhania schools and various universities in India and abroad, and the list is endless. Now, I would like to invite Mrs. Revati Srinivasan to share her thoughts with us. I'm sure that the audience, like me, are awaiting her valuable insights into how educational institutions can bridge learning gaps by adopting blended learning practices in their schools. Over to you, ma'am.
First of all, thank you so much. I think such an elaborate introduction. I think I wouldn't have seen these photographs myself. Ruta ma'am, I think you have managed to bring all of them together.
Thank you so
Absolutely
much, ma'am.
delightful
We have
for me to
tried,
see.
actually. We have tried to bring few. And there are
Oh,
plenty, I'm
no.
sure.
It was really beautiful for me to also see the photographs. But I must say thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you, Digay sir, for inviting me. And when he gave me the topic, I was just jubilant because I think this is something very, very close to all our hearts. We all think that. We can do so much more for our institutions, so much more for our students, and for that spark in that lies in every teacher. It's so essential to adapt. I think we did it so beautifully. First of all, I would like to congratulate your school and all the teachers of Saraswati Vidya Mandir for having pooled in their resources, brought out the best during this 1 year of lockdown, proved to be truly edu warriors in its truest sense. So you are no less than any other warrior who stood, because you have crossed the mental blocks, the mental challenges, the mental barbed wire railings that would have been there about whether I can do the technological part of it or not. And you crossed all of that and tried to reach out to the students. Like Amita ma'am said, I think so many times we have taken the help of our own students. कहाँ से आएगा, ये कहाँ जाएगा, how do I do it, मैं कैसे present करूं, how can I mute chat, ये सब, these are questions that came to us as we went along, as we were teaching. And I think the beauty lies in the fact that we rose about all of this, we've risen and proved ourselves. So I think that is the beauty. But the challenge was not as much in 2020 as the challenge for teachers is going to be in 2021. And
I'm
mark
sure.
my words, I am going to be very, very blatantly honest when I'm talking, because I don't like to make flowery statements. I speak from my heart. I speak from the knowledge I have and my experiences, and I pour it out. So you may feel a little uncomfortable when I say this. And I repeat that sentence, that 2020 would have been far better than 2021-22. The reason being that when you have to cross a trench, a gutter, okay, and it is big, you will put all your heart and soul to make one big jump. Okay, that is chalang marna. You'll do that. You will not think of anything else, because you know, if I have to reach on the other side, I have to run. Give you a simple example. You're crossing a big road which is 60 feet wide. Before the next vehicle, and there is no red signals, and so you don't know when to cross. So you have to cross between the two vehicles. The minute you know that the cars are coming in and it is not too close, so you can manage to cross, even if you have to cross 30 feet, every one of us has this tendency to run so that the car doesn't come faster and smash. It is the same kind of thing in education field. If we taught our children the way today, the way we taught them yesterday, perhaps we are denying them a tomorrow. And I repeat, If we taught our students today the way we taught them yesterday, then we are denying them a better tomorrow. So I have a feeling that this year it's going to be socks up, all ready to run, wanting to prove ourselves. We have crossed the river halfway through. We need to cross it full way. So, what's the way forward? That's the question. So, as I said, I will touch upon really the practical aspects of it. I'm not presenting any rosy picture. I will be very, very honest when I present this. I will speak for maybe about 20, 25 minutes, not more than that. And I would encourage you all to ask me questions, and perhaps that will make me think further. That would be a better way so that it becomes a little more interactive. You can put your questions on the chat if you wish to. So I'm going to look at it if I had 3 boxes. The first box has my traditional school. I came to school, taught everything, lecture method, chalk and board, and that's it. Okay. I was as innovative. I took the students out for for any kind of activity. We did some outdoor activities as well. All that was fine. That's the natural schooling system that India has had. Now, let me take you to box number 3. Box number 3 is what we did the whole of last year. That's online. Okay. Was it good? Yes. It had its disadvantages because it didn't provide social equity. Everyone didn't have an instrument. Everyone didn't have a device. Maybe there were such problems, but on the whole, I would say it fairly went off well. Okay. We maintained the distance, and in that distance learning formula, we managed to also teach. We managed to assess. Then what happened in the gap? In between box number 1 and box number 3 lies a small box. That box is a blend of the traditional method where we come face to face with our children and the online mode, which is what we saw last year. And the blending of the two is called blended learning. So blended learning, if I were to see, it kinds of personalizes education for children. Okay, because when I want to take them out and I want to see them face to face, I get to see them. When I want to ask them to stay at home and study online, either using the materials that you have sent or any other mode, you can do that. So seemingly, it appears that blended learning is a very good answer for the year 21-22. And that's rightfully so. Let's see how it works. It is digital content plus activity. That is how you will see blended learning. Okay, so when I see blended learning, I can see that there is so much more beyond and behind the grades. Deep thinking, deep learning is the crux of education. If we want to have deep learning, only then true knowledge will come. So all that we are going to study, why am I saying this, is that the new NEP does not focus on marks. The NEP does not tell us that our children will have to write standard 10 board exams. No. So we don't know whether we're going to be having board exams after 2 years. So in that case, what's going to be the parameter on which you're going to judge? What are the bases on which you're going to assess a child? It would be the kind of knowledge that the child has, not the content, but the conceptual understanding. And this conceptual understanding, how do I synthesize different concepts and apply them in actuality? So that is what is going to be tested. So for me, what is education? I've always maintained that education is not about qualifications. That's your qualifications, academic qualifications. So then what is important for education? If I'm able to create a child who is very confident, who is able to problem solve, who has thinking feet, and I really mean that, I think, and is a child who is able to communicate very well, talk very well, speak, communicate his ideas, and I'm using he in a common gender, please. And or if he is able to be more creative, finding new solutions to newer problems, to me, that boy is educated. He may not have the best of the degrees, but he is educated. Why? Because education, according to me, is common sense. Unfortunately, I'm going to make a statement which may not be taken well, but unfortunately, that is what is missing. So much of our children are running behind marks of rote memory, of being able to memorize the answer so that they put the right answer under a particular question so that they get full marks, that we are losing our common sense. And when we lose our common sense, we are not able to find solutions to our day life problems. Fortunately for us, our common sense came alive when the lockdown was declared. Otherwise, we would have had a huge problem of children not being able to cope with the kind of social distancing that came in. Okay, so it was more than social distancing. I would say physical distancing that came in. They could meet their friends. And why do children come to school? You think? I did a survey in school, in my own school, and we realized after the survey that children come to school to have fun and meet friends. In the process of that, if they have learned something, God bless you, teachers. That's what it is. So I think what we are looking now at in a form of a blended learning is where we are able to fix up online plus the offline, that is face-to-face study. That means we are able to bring about digital content, plus we are able to bring about activities and blend them together. So that's what we are actually looking at. Now I come to the next part. What is a curriculum? A curriculum consists of not just matter, knowledge, but it also consists of ABC. A is attitudes, B is behavior, and C is competencies and capabilities. So if we are building upon all these three aspects, you have a complete child. So that's what I'd like to say. So how do you build that thing element coming in? So all of us face this problem. We have larger classrooms, we have class sizes larger. So when there is any activity to be done, there is a general tendency for all of us to say that small is beautiful. We can do so many activities when the class size is very small. हमारी क्लास में 50 बच्चे हैं, 60 बच्चे हैं, तो ये एक्टिविटी तो हो ही नहीं पाएगा. This is a very common answer you hear from many teachers. And my answer to this is blended learning. So blended learning is where there is a self-directed learning happening. It is a point where you will allow the classes to move in directions. So you can have, for example, and if you notice, all your learning gaps begins when the child is in the elementary school. In grades 1 to 4 is a maximum learning. And why is that gap happening? The gap happens because parents are pressurizing kids to have their grades proper, marks proper. Okay? So they are confining themselves to learning only what is going to come for the examinations. They're not really working towards understanding a particular concept. So in this, what really happens again is when I see blended learning, I would like to say that most of the time we think that blended learning is hybrid learning. Hybrid learning is another concept that has been coming in of late. And you will hear this hybrid learning more from the Finnish school of thought. So what is this blended learning or hybrid learning? If I were to draw the distinction, blended learning is where you will be forced to learn some more complex concepts, where knowledge is involved and where you are creating knowledge. That comes from blended learning. When you want to see, so you're trying to establish a fact, okay? Or you have some formal teaching, you have some informal teaching, and some part of it is experiential, hands-on experience, project way. that three of them combined together makes it for you the Swedish kind of a way of learning, and that's a hybrid model. So a blended learning, I would say, comprises of more complex component that you need to. So you will be comprising of being in the class, being outside the class, online also, and remote learning that we call it, as well as hands-on experience by the way of projects. But there will be a lot of collaboration. And if you were notice this word collaboration, that's what is coming in our NEP also, that they are talking in terms of collaborative work and interdisciplinary. So if I were to say there are at least four kinds, there are 8 kinds of blended learning. Okay, the first one is called the remote online learning, where everything is outside. Okay, so you're learning everything online, and then you come back to class once in a week or something, or a doubt clearance session that you can have, and you call them, and then you're talking to them and you're clearing the doubts. That would be a remote way of learning. Then you have a laboratory or a lab related hybrid or blended learning, where students move to labs. So they have understood a concept in class. The children are in class, they learn a particular concept, then they go to the lab, which is a computer lab. They learn it online, and then they come back to the class to have a discussion. That's a lab rotation model. Okay, so that is one way of looking at it. Now I'll tell you where it will be helpful for us. When we have a class of, say, supposing you have a class of 50. When you have a class of 50, you are explaining everything together to all the 50 children, just like how you're doing. Then you take 25 out, send them to the lab, okay, computer lab, and you go there and give instructions, while the 25 in your classroom, you will divide them into 5 groups of 5 students each, and then give them some problem that they would be solving. Okay, so it would be a real life problem that they are finding solutions, or it could be something related to your unit itself. Okay, for example, if you're talking in terms of sustainable development, some problems, real life problems of sustainable goals and sustainable development can be given to them. So while they're discussing, you go back and give the ones in the computer lab. As a teacher, you will go and give them instructions. They go through it, they do their work. After maybe about 15-20 minutes, you bring them back to the class, and the next group goes in. So this is a lab rotation model. Now this is seemingly, when I say, it may sound very easy. However, you know our children, how noisy they become without the teacher in the class. They can even become destructive when they don't have a teacher in a class. And to say that let's have the second teacher who will stand there and give directions, is that possible in our schools? No. I'm talking about just schools in general. Okay, I'm not talking about Saraswati, or I'm not talking about Singhani as well. So this is not a possible move, is what many people think. Okay, so that's one model. The next model, so you can adapt the model that you think really fits in for you. Okay, the next model would be something called a flex blended model. In flex blended learning, what will happen is that the children, it's like a flipped classroom. You go there, you read something or see a video, do all of that, and then come back to class, and then there is a group discussion. So you are collaborating with each other and discussing as to what that problem was about, and finding solutions to that problem. So that's one more method. The next method would be a project-based blended learning, where you have a face-to-face problem, and you are face-to-face and you're discussing solutions, designing the problem, designing solutions, all of that you do. And then it's completely hands-on. And then the students can go back, research at home, add on to the content, and then come back. So now that's an activity that you can do. Okay. So in such ways, it is almost a vertical model, but these are ways by which you can do blended learning. And in all this, let me tell you that the curriculum, there is 2 parts to a curriculum. One is a visible curriculum. That's what is in our textbook. Okay. But there is also an invisible curriculum. That means that's not in our textbook, but it has an underlying meaning. All right, that curriculum, if you have to understand that very well, you need to know something beyond. And that is why blended learning is helpful to us. Blended learning is helpful because you don't have to feed the child everything. There is no spoon feeding. It is about children also having self-directed learning, learning by themselves. That is also very, very important. And most of the time, we think our students get noisy, our students, this thing, we have to teach them their responsibility. Let us teach them that the onus of learning is not on the teachers. Most of the time, parents do the learning or the teachers do the learning. We don't allow our students to experiment. Let them feel it's perfectly all right. It's perfectly all right because that's not a failure in life. It's only an obstacle that one has to cross. But unless students see that the outcome is not good or good, only then will they take their step forward. And let me tell you, it is true that the minute we do it more and more, and let me tell you, there is a feeling that you practice more and more and more, the best will come out. Okay, that is why there is so much of drilling that may be happening in schools, in coaching classes, whatever it is. So let me tell you this. In general, yes, practice, 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 and the English saying says practice makes the man perfect. I would like to put a corollary there. Practice does not make the man perfect. Perfect practice makes the man perfect. So unless you practice it perfectly, you're not going to get it right. So the more we do something, the better we get. Sorry, no. At least in education, that doesn't happen. The more children keep on studying, after some time, they are sapped of any energy. There is no enthusiasm to learn. They are just like parents. Okay? And children, when they are very young, they learn at a warp speed. They do very fast. And have you noticed as the children grow older, there is a break in their learning? That enthusiasm, that twinkle in the eye, that yearning to do something deeper and better disappears. Why? Because there is so much more of repeated learning and repeated. Think of your standard 10 students. I really pity them. The more the exams will get postponed, now fortunately it's in May. Otherwise, reading the same thing makes children feel that they know it all. Sab kuch aata hai. 10 standard portions, I'll get full. But will they get full marks? No. Why? Because everything is just familiar to them. They haven't learned it well. Okay? And there is a difference between familiarity and knowing it. There is a difference between understanding and knowing. So both of this is, I understood it well, but unless I know it well, I will not be able to convert and translate that into an answer. That is why many of our very good children understand, children, we think that they would get good marks. Suddenly, when they're getting their marks, they're not getting. They got a 92. And you say, he was capable of getting full marks. What's the problem? The gap is in the fact of understanding and being able to apply that understanding into knowledge. That is where the gap lies. And that is why I said the learning gap is greater in terms of the younger children. I'll give you an example. If I say that the children, there's a school there and children are stranded in the school because there's heavy rains. Okay, if I give some example like this in a problem, there are 1,000 children in the school and the Indian Air Force dropped 500 food packets. Okay, let's not say Uttaranchal, let's say Nepal, okay, a neighboring state, country. So if you say like that, then, and you are asking how many more packets needs to be dropped so that everyone gets food to eat. So the 1,000 minus 500 is 500. So the answer would be 500. If you say that I have 1,000 apples in my basket and out of which we all ate 500. How many more are there? Between these two questions, the questions answer is the same. Questions are relatedly same. Which one would appeal to the child better? By the Nepal problem. Why? Because the child learns beyond what it is about subtraction. The child learns that when there is one state that is in need, the other country should come to help it, and the teacher must touch upon these. Okay, so this is how learning really happens. The gaps happen because they are looking at a word problem as a word problem in language. Let me take English, for example. Okay, we teach them sight words, then we teach them phonetics, we teach them all that, and they come to standard one. Then we have taught them cursive writing, and they've come in. Now, they are so particular about knowing that they write the spellings correctly that they'll go back home and practice 100 times every word that they are hopefully getting for dictation. Now, what have we done? We're just doing a repeated memory. We are enhancing the child's short-term memory by making the child repeat that many times. So in such a case, what really happens is that the learning gap, as the number of words that the child has to learn goes on increasing, the gap increases. And that is how we have learning gap. So how is our blended learning going to help our children? How, in what way is it going to help us? So there are some few things that we have to remember. First, keep in mind that there has to be curriculum innovation all the time. As I mentioned, word problems can be put across in many ways. Second, involve parents. Enhance parental involvement in learning. Okay, it need not be that you ensure that your child writes a spelling correctly, writing notes properly, not that involvement. For example, I will ask my child to find out what was the family's first journey in train. So the mother will say, oh, we went from Mumbai to Ratnagiri. So which were the stations that came over there? What were the kind of houses that were on the way? Were they sloping roofs? Why were there sloping roofs for those houses? Okay, now this is a conversation between a parent and a child, but that leads to so much of learning. Now, can you put that child onto the mobile or laptop just to search the internet? Which other places in India would have many houses with sloping roofs? So they'll come out with Kerala, houses are with sloping roof. Mangalore, the houses are with sloping roof. In the east, northeast areas, especially the Meghalaya areas, they have sloping roofs. Question is, why the sloping roofs? The answer that the child gets. So the child starts searching which other places in the world are there sloping roofs. Come back to a common answer, why sloping roofs? And you will come across so much of learning. And that's how blended learning has to be used. So the blended learning is a fact where you are going to instigate, if I can say. I would use the word invigorate, but for easier sense, instigate the child to brainstorm within himself. Why only this? Why not this? Okay. When children are interested in planes, see, they go and search for information. Ask them to bring that information to class and then start discussing that. Okay. So this is how children learn. So for that, first thing you have to do is put fears to rest. There cannot be anxieties, there cannot be fear, not just for the children and for the parents, but also for the teacher. Let not any teacher have in your mind that what if the children have more knowledge than I? I'm not be all, end all, and knowledge all person. So if you bring something of an chopper to me, helicopter or a plane to me, perhaps I may not know it. It's all right. If you bring a history to me of American history to me, I may not know it. I know my Indian history. I don't know American history. It's as good as telling the child that I will also research and come back. Go back, research and come back. Both of you learn together. That is how gaps are filled, and that's how we make um, asynchronous platform. Asynchronous platforms are all these the blackboards and jamboards and all of that. Those are asynchronous. You can bring it along with synchronous platforms. Synchronous platforms are platforms like Zoom. Okay, bring them together, and you will have so much of learning. Asynchronous can be YouTube channel. So you bring in a YouTube channel, you've shown them a film, maybe of Pearl Harbor, okay, and you have shown the Second World War, and then the next day you're coming, calling them to school. They let them watch the movie. So they have watched a movie for full 2 hours. The next day you're calling them to school, and then you are discussing about it. Okay. You discuss so much that all the questions, what you had in mind, are given as questions to the students, and students find answers for that. You can even open up classrooms. And I feel after lockdown, when students come in, I think the seniors will come in first. It is very important for us to have many classes in the open air. So use all your outdoor spaces, so that you can have a discussion. You can have 3 4 teachers and combine 3 4 sections, and then have discussions. You'll get so much of information, knowledge, and there would be so many questions that can get answered. And by this, they have actually learned. Then you give them questions to do for their the way that you are teaching them for your regular curriculum, and they would do fantastically well. So we have to reimagine the future of education. We have to redesign our education patterns. Otherwise, neither it's almost like a fourth revolution that's going to come, because we will have to look in terms of how do we incorporate technology in our learning. One, we did it brilliantly, but how do we do that better? And we also have to think in terms of using all the medias. They're all tools. For example, mobiles, TV, YouTube channels, your even all your instas and things like that. You may have something good in it. Even paper and pen, books, all of that are tools by which you can get knowledge. So don't rubbish off something by saying that this can't be done and this is not done. Where we have to keep into mind is the fact that we do not have students deviating from what we have to do. So you have to give them very tight deadlines. Otherwise, students tend to deviate from what they have. They look at everything else except what you have want them to look at. Okay, so that is what it is. 5 tips that I'd like to give all of you was that first of all, remember that you will have to have a good navigable LMS, that is learning management system. You will have to have, you cannot replicate your classroom, which is 2019 classroom I'm talking about. You cannot replicate that into your 21, 22 classroom at all. Okay, I did it that way so well. We used to have class discussions. You can have that. But today you cannot just have class discussions. A blended learning format is where students have to also research at home using their online pad. So you can have discussions on Padlets, you can have discussions on Google Jamboard, then you have on Nearpod, you can use Kahoot. All of these, there are quizzes that are available. All of that you have to use. I'm sure you've used many of these now, and that is what it is. And there's something called Peer Deck. So there is a whole lot of things that we can use to get it. How are we to do our conduct our blended classes? Give instructions in the start of the class. Tell them what can be expected from you and what you expect of them. What are the deadlines? What are the rules to be followed? Put it across to them. Rest of it, they are free to gather. And after they have done that, we come back and bring them back. We have to guide them from time to time. Initially, you will find the effort a little more, but over a period of time, students understand that method. Okay, when you're doing your assessments, also make sure that you have given them assessments of different kinds. You can give them a video, ask them to watch it for 15 minutes, and then a few questions based on it, and a lot of self-interpretative questions. Self-interpretative questions are what if, okay? I particularly like to give questions where there is a lot of thinking, but there is no right or wrong answers. Even in the CBSE board, you will need them. Okay, so that explains very well. So lesson design, the way you write your lesson plans, that will also change. The assessment patterns will change. Some people come back, some teachers would always come back and say, ma'am, I had a very interesting assessment, it was tough for the students. My answer to them all is always this: if you are assessing them in a tough manner, you should have prepared them for that tough one, which means that you should have taught them so well that they just know all the concepts that would come and how to apply the concepts in real life. Okay, that is what it is. So it is important for us to remember that we use a blended learning in a format that is plus and minus. Okay, so that's what I would like to say. If there are any few questions, I'd like to take it, but I think this gives a little idea of what blended learning is and how you can apply in classroom, because people say all these new concepts are nice, but that's okay abroad. It's not possible in India when you're having 60 students. Remember, 60 has to be always broken down into smaller parts. You can't take the school as a whole. You have to take them into smaller parts. And do not ever believe it's not possible. It is possible. You will just have to break it into small things, small pieces at a time. Don't try to multitask. Don't try to do too many things in one class. Use only one methodology and use it well. I'm sure the children come out brilliantly with that. Okay, thank you. And you can ask your questions if you wish to.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. It was very enlightening. And I would request the audiences, if you are having any questions, you can please put it in the chat box. Meanwhile, ma'am, I have few questions in my mind.
Yes, sure, sure.
So, ma'am, I would like to know in blended learning, so how we can address the children with special needs.
Yeah. So children with special needs have got one problem, and that's about not using technology.
Yeah,
Okay. So it is not possible for us to make them sit in front of a screen and get them to do what we want them to do. So I've always had this, and because I've done so much of work with special children, I really believe that those are children with a little bit of gentle care. It
yeah,
needs a lot more of personalized learning than anything else. Blended learning is indeed a very personalized method. So my way of looking at it is that when it comes to technology aspect, the parent or the teacher or the shadow teacher, whoever is present there, is also hand holding. Now they will not look at the screen, but your words which you are repeating from the screen is what's going to encourage them. And then we can bring in that component. That's the only way that you can work with special children.
thank you, ma'am. Another question, ma'am, is we are having different level children in the class.
Yes,
Now there are children who takes time to understand a concept, and there
correct.
are children who are very smart. So
Yes.
when we are in a blended learning, so how we can address both of them together? So in the
Uh,
class, how we do it is different, but in blended learning, how can we do that?
so when you're dividing your groups in your classes, do
Yeah,
ensure that the set of children have some very fast learning ones also in the group. Okay,
yeah,
that's one. When you're setting your assessments, and this is what we do normally in school also, is that give them papers which are a little more challenging. Okay, over a period of time, the other children will catch up. It should never be a neglect of any group, either the very good ones or the students who need a little more help. And maybe we could try out like this, that a little effort goes in from the home end also, where these
yeah,
children are taken back home, and the parent also sits, because you can give them a video of a recorded version where they can go back. They have to go through that and come back the next day, because that is the only way, a place where they can level to the others. They need an extra input, and that is why these recorded versions or the YouTube channel is very, very helpful.
yeah. And maybe the children can repeatedly watch it, and the slow learning, I mean, if a children needs to understand a concept
Better,
in a better
yes,
fashion, they can repeatedly
absolutely.
watch it.
See,
Yeah,
it's happened this year also, Ruta,
yeah,
because if I can see that a lot of parents would sit with their children. You
yeah,
know, sometimes, of course, initially they used to keep butting in, but now then they learned that they have to keep quiet about it.
yeah,
So, initially it's all about excitement. Then
yeah.
it's understood. Okay,
Yes,
this is
yes,
not
yes.
done. Okay. So what do we do for such things? So what we do is that we ensure that the child sits with the parent. It's all right, but
Yeah,
because they're watching it a couple of times, the mother is constantly either transliterating it into
yeah,
the mother tongue. Okay, so that helps the child to understand better. Okay, so that is one aspect of it. And if the parents are working and they can't do so, the child watches it a couple of times and understands it, and the next day the teacher just keeps asking very simple questions to that child to give him a feeling of good self-esteem. So that way they start answering that better. uh, Peer tutoring also helps a lot.
yeah. Peer tutoring. Yes, yes.
Helps a lot.
Ma'am, one more question which is cropping my mind is, ma'am, how do you think that blended learning will will affect the learning outcomes of children?
It
Will
can
it?
affect,
Yeah,
there are two ways.
yeah,
One is that if students are not taking the onus of learning on themselves, you are likely to have problems. For example, you are giving them a flip lesson. So you're giving them a video to watch,
yeah,
or a paragraph or two paragraphs to read, understand, debate, and come back. Okay, or you are given the students a group activity at home where those students can collaborate, be on the net or something, and learn together.
yeah,
But the student has not done it. There is a tendency for many students, they'll come back to school and copy out everything and show it. In such circumstances, we will be having problem. That's when the children will not learn. So there has to be some element of uh, interest that one has to create for those children, so that the best comes out for them. Okay, so as I say, blended learning is not the perfect solution to everything, because there could be children who do not have access also.
access to
Yeah,
this. Yeah,
yes, to a device, and or they have to wait for their parents to come back, only then the device, and by the
yeah,
time they are tired. So accessibility is a huge problem in our country.
huge problem.
Yeah, two is that if I don't have a laptop or a computer and I'm using a mobile, the eye strain can be so much that it can put the child off completely, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
don't know how to look into a small screen all day long, right? So that can be a huge restraint. The third, where this is why I address teachers, because the third, if the teacher is not creative, the whole purpose of blended learning is gone. So my
absolutely.
request to all teachers is that you will really have to be very, very creative. Just as you were creative when you were having online, you have to continue with the same. But here you have to do dual purposes. You have to be creative online, you have to be creative offline. And you should know when to switch off and when to switch on. And you should
Yeah,
also know when to blend the two.
blend.
So,
Yeah,
so your roles are only increasing. That is what I would like to say to all the teachers. So
yeah.
just keep yourself pepped up always, because there's so much of learning in everything that we do.
Thank you, ma'am. I would request Digay sir. I'm sure that you must be having plenty of questions in your mind for ma'am. Digay sir.
You teachers are most welcome. No? So let them have.
Yes.
Yeah, because we always ask and we have always discussion, but let the teachers ask.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, teachers, I would request any of the teacher having any question. Yeah, yeah, Lalita, please, if you can ask a question, you can
Yeah.
actually write. Yeah, you can write in the chat box, dear.
Okay, you want me to write in the chat box,
Yeah,
or
that
the
will be
question
better.
is
So
bit
everybody can write. Yeah.
okay? The question is bit longer, so I was.
Okay, fine,
Okay, so just
fine.
speak.
Is that
Speak
okay?
it out,
Okay.
Lalita.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, good evening, ma'am, and
Good evening.
thank you for giving us a new outlook towards this blended learning. It was amazing. And my question is, ma'am, I'm just trying to think a little bit futuristic. When we'll be going back to our normal, this is the new normal that we have. When we go back to the new normal, and when we will have our children in the class, so how does this blended working will really work? Like the children are so much accustomed to the technology now, so again bringing them back to the classroom setup, how do we actually go about with how the transition will be like?
Okay, very good question, Lalita. I've just come back from one webinar where I was addressing this problem. And the question, I mean, the topic was on what is it going to be like and how do we, what are the challenges that school principals will face after the schools are open, and what are the kind of solutions that was the webinar. In fact, I finished that at 4:30 and then logged in here. Okay, so I can see that there would be problems. Okay, there would be problems of three kinds. One is that the children have got so accustomed to getting up late, having a more leisure life, okay, having doing things their way, having their own way of doing things. So it's a lot different. Teachers have also got used to a different pace of life.
Yeah.
It's not like rolling out at by 7 o'clock you're out of the house, and then you're going to go back only at 2:33. So till that time you're not around and you did it, but here you had the pace, and children and the family have got used to your presence at home. So it's not going to, and you, all of us have got used to a little hot lunch. Not going to be easy for us to adjust. Okay. Third is the third problem that we will be facing is the fact that while we have got hooked on technology, uh, it is the students who are going to find it difficult to unveil from there. You know, the reason why is that while they are on technology, they're also using the same technology for their other leisures. Whereas you and I, as teachers, are not using it like that. We have used it more for this, at the most social media, okay, but otherwise we don't go to do too much of research and conversations and discussion boards and things like that. So that's going to be one problem. Where I am going to see a problem is behavioral problem. So that is something that we will have to address, because children may have got aggressive, they got bored, they have got really frustrated. So you will see aggression in children very fast, okay, very, very easily. So that's a problem that we will have to address. The third problem where I can see it is that a blended learning, if I were to see it futuristic, this is the new normal, which means this is the minimum that we are going to be having. Okay. We are not going to get back to a complete school system at all. The only classroom face to face. As I see it, I don't see that we go back. We will be using technology throughout. Okay, so that old classroom where I lectured and I came out is not there. That completely will not be there. So I will be in my classrooms, but I may use, in your own classrooms, you may use a little technology to teach them some concepts. So the blended learning is there. So beyond the blended learning, I'm just hoping that it doesn't go fully tech. Okay, so that's the way it should not go, but a blend of technology and teaching will really help a lot. So that's going to be our new normal, and it's going to stay for at least another couple of years till the time the next change really happens. But we will be able to blend technology in our teaching. This is how I see it. It's not going to be that now I'm using technology. Let's see 1978, 79. That was a time when the television had just come in 1980, I think. Okay. Everyone would ask, घर में टीवी है, घर में टीवी है, घर में टीवी है, because TV had come new. Okay. तो आज क्या देखा, आज क्या देखा? This was a general conversation amongst my mother's and my mom's friends and all that. When we were growing, I never thought of asking anyone, you, okay, then it was all black and white. Then we asked people, is it a color television or is it a black and white television? So we say color. So see the evolution that's happening. Today, do we ask, do you have a television? No, we don't ask. We just assume. That's exactly what's going to happen to technology in our classrooms. Nobody's going to ask, did you use Kahoot for quiz or what did you use for quiz? Socrates you used for quiz? No, nobody's going to ask. I did some online quizzes and I finished it. That will be a statement. And you will accept it just like that. So we all have to, as teachers, have to raise ourselves to the level where we can say that this is going to be a part of our lives.
Absolutely.
So it's basically acceptance and adapting to the new normal.
Absolutely.
That's
The key word is flexibility and adaptability. That is the key word. Okay. And taking the challenges your way. Just don't worry about it. Don't ever think that, oh my God, something new has come in technology. Nothing. New will come. Every minute something new is going to come. What do you want to? That doesn't mean we just go on doing a one-up-man show. And this is what I tell my teachers. Don't say that this school is following that. Chalo, let's also try it out. Not at all. You are comfortable with one thing, do it for some time, innovate on it, try it out, translate it and transform it into a better system. That's the way forward. Then after a year, you say, yes, I am capable of trying out something new. Try it out. Don't say, "Achha, that school has started, we'll also do. They did this test, we'll also do. They're doing proctored exam. This is what is happening in today's time. Let me say today's story also. Someone puts a photograph on a WhatsApp saying that I got inoculated for the COVID. Okay. The elders in the home start saying, oh, I didn't go for my inoculation. I haven't gone for my vaccine. So that vaccine fever has caught on. You should see the rush outside the hospitals. Okay. So that herd at mentality of doing what everybody is doing, I think that's not the right word. At least not in education. That's what I said. I'm brutally honest when I speak all these. But I want to say that because just don't keep adapting something because somebody else is doing so. It's all right if they're doing it. But what you're doing, do the best that you can and see that you've used it to the best of your capacity, made it as innovative. So you're doing online assessments, you're giving alternate answers. Okay, make your questions more creative than you can ever think of. That is your challenge. Make it as interesting that it can challenge a child of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever the age may be. That is your challenge. It is not very important for you to choose outside your this thing and search and find out which has the best quizzes on earth. No need. Give them anything simple. Okay. When you take your children out to the sports ground, you just have to give them a football. You don't have to tell them what you need to do. They'll find ways of the same football is used to kick, the same football is used to grab, the same football will be used even in a basketball court. They don't have any difference. They just need time to play. And they find out their own ways of playing. Okay. So that is what it is. So we have to come back to being a child and creating a sports field, education as a sports field, a school being a sports field. So, and everything has to be grounded with values. Because if we don't value and give values now, they're not going to get grounded. They will never learn to be humble.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much,
Lalita.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Lalita. I think Amita Bhagwat, ma'am, has a question. Over to you, Amita Bhagwat.
Yes. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Amita.
I'm a language teacher, and I have a question regarding the videos, like the flipped classroom that you talked about.
Yes.
Actually, here, because of this online schooling, for a specific text, we may say that I had shown a video, right? It was about the unsinkable ship, the Titanic.
Correct.
And the children watched the film. We discussed everything. The information what was given in the text actually was discussed.
Okay.
Children answered it readily, so they understood. So the purpose of learning was served actually.
Yes.
But a few parents later on asked me, like, you didn't read the text. So how shall we convince the parents when we use such a blended thing, learning in the classroom? It becomes really very difficult to convince the parents.
Yeah, I do understand this because I know what I would have gone through also. But ma'am, you are right in using it. Only get the children to read the text so that you don't have to. Yes. I think what you did is beautiful. And I think that's what we need to. Once or twice, they will have that doubt. But after that, they will learn to do it. And when you ask them to set the questions themselves, when they set the question and they start answering, and if you put across you say that I will give the best 10 questions, they will take it amongst themselves a challenge to set the toughest questions possible, because they love it when their question is selected, because it's not such a easy giveaway question. And they'll start, because they are setting the questions, they will start reading their text very well. And because of that, their reading capacity will improve. And this, I have tried it out myself many times, and it has worked. So initially, parents will feel, just tell the parents, reassure them that there is no worry. the children will pick up and they will learn.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Any other teacher would like to question? Anybody? Yeah, I think Gauri. Gauri, I think I can see your hand. Gauri, would you like to ask question to ma'am?
Uh, okay. Good evening, ma'am.
Yes, Gauri, good evening.
Yeah. So this was regarding the technology. I mean, we are using right now. But the thing is, if it happens to be a laboratory
Yeah.
where the experiments are also very important, the live experiments which we do, they're also very important. So what about that then?
Yeah, so that is what in a blended format, Gauri, you are getting the students in school. So your
Right.
practicals, so what can be given as something that they can do at home should
Exactly.
be the learning component at home. Okay, and the that is that part of the blending. Okay, that is, and what needs to be face to face is your practicals. No matter what, children should know how to use an apparatus.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, if I don't know how to hold a pipette or a burette, what am I there for? Okay, I
Right.
mean, what is the purpose of doing a practical? So just ensure that the practicals they will be in school while they do it, but all instructions are previously given to them through a mail or on their this thing on their boxes. So they already got instructions. They are supposed to read that thoroughly, learn that completely, and then come. And when you're coming here, you're using their half an hour only for practicals because I doubt if we are going to have full day school and things like that. So when you're having less time, how do you use the less time? So you will have to divide that. So teachers have to plan the timetable very carefully. What can be given as self reading or given as flipped classroom learning or can be done through an online lesson should be done online. What cannot be done is like practicals you cannot do.
Right.
Some mathematical concepts you cannot do online because I can't understand unless I see it, okay, or unless I ask face to face. That should be done in the classroom. So that is what is the beauty of blended learning is that the teacher is already prepared with her complete curriculum. Two curriculums, visible curriculum and invisible curriculum. The visible curriculum is what you're saying, what you're seeing, and that practicals has to be done. And your invisible curriculum is the back of the hand learning that has to happen. So automatically that can go in the blended component on the other side of the online, while what needs to be done, which is hands-on, needs to come in here. Sometimes even poetry teaching, for example, for all the language teachers, whether English, Hindi, Marathi, whichever language it is, let me tell you, it is so essential for you to bring them to class because the nuances of the meanings or the emotions or the pathos that may come across can come across only when you are face to face.
Right.
Okay. On an online, most of the time children switch off their videos. So then whether they're sitting there, you're not sitting there, you don't know. So this is how you bring in that element because what is lacking in our children is being able to empathize with someone. So we have to bring in sensitivity. For that, you need to do it. Whereas a lesson, for example, an essay that's being given, that can be done sitting in the online process of being in the home. So that's how you have to divide it. So which means your curriculum should be very well planned. Your lesson planning should be perfect. Even in a particular lesson, some part of the lesson should be done in face to face. Some part of the lesson can be done online. That's the beauty of blended learning.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Ma'am, one last question, and that is, it's popping up again and again in my mind now when we are talking about 21, the academic session, even we will be starting in the month of April. And since the prevailing conditions outside, so in the month of April, we are having online school
Yes,
only.
absolutely.
So we do not know what is going to happen in June,
Yes.
and we do not know whether we are going to have physical school or whether it is going to be continue with the online classes. So the question which is there in my mind is, suppose if Is it going to be the school with social distancing for the next coming 2 years? Like the children, coming in batches for the physical school.
I really foresee that at least for the
Yeah,
next 3, 4 months, June, July, August, I see that very, very clearly. That I don't think children will all come to school together. And even for the sake of our safety and management, we may have to do it. As I said, there is a lot of behavioral changes in children that one can anticipate, and therefore one needs to divide, uh, in such a way that learning happens without other. We should not be devoting our time to solving discipline problems.
yeah,
So we should plan
absolutely.
it out in a way that will help this blended component.
Yeah, especially with the younger lot, they
Yes.
are used to of parents around all the
Correct.
time, and
So
it is going
I
to be
would
very
say it
difficult.
should be about, spaced out opening of schools.
Yeah,
It should be spaced out staggering timings. All
yeah,
of this will really help
yeah, yeah.
so that you
And
don't have a crowd.
crowd, yeah, absolutely. Ma'am, what do you think the future of the adds in new education policies language? I will not call it the extracurricular activities, but per se, till this academic session, the other things which we had on course,
Yeah,
like though we are having it on online platform, but when
correct.
the physical
Yes.
school will start, can we have it physically?
I
Like
think you
this?
can have it, but again, you'll have to divide it very carefully in batches.
Yeah,
So the planning will be very, very different from what we had. Earlier, we could send all, say, two sections out on the ground. Now
yeah,
you may have to think twice. So
think
while
twice.
one class is having football on the ground, the other may be inside having, say,
It's yeah,
chess.
absolutely.
That kind of a planning. So that is what all principals will have a tough time this
Tough
year.
time managing the timetables. Yeah,
It's not going to be very easy.
yeah, yeah. So I would request, I would like to ask Digesh sir or Namle sir, would you like to say something? Digesh sir?
Yeah. Now you get the opportunity to ask the question,
Yeah.
but not as a teacher, but as a
Okay.
student. But as a
Oh,
student,
oh,
see, in my school days, the main headache is the homework.
correct.
How you just imagine and think about your ideas about the homework and the work at home
Okay.
in this blended education.
Okay. I would put it like this. Homework was something forced upon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in good old days, homework was almost a repetitive activity. For example, there were questions and answers that we needed to write. Okay. So that was what it was. As children, no child likes to do a homework. Let me tell you, honestly, they don't like. But they don't mind working from home if it is an activity which requires cognitive development or cognitive action. For example, I tell them to design a solution to a particular scientific property or design a solution to solve the traffic problems of Thane. They will all sit and work from home. Okay. But if I say write an essay on the traffic problem in the thing, they will not write. Or 25 will write and 10 will copy from the 25.
Okay.
That's what it is.
And my second question, I just wondering how in
Yes.
this this near future, in the age of the artificial intelligence,
Yes.
where the robot will replace the teacher, there is some cases. So how do you think again this blended education and artificial intelligence plays the role in the education?
Sir, no robo will ever replace a teacher. A teacher cannot be replaced.
But there
Okay.
are some at present.
Yes, there
Yeah,
are some robos, but
yeah.
I don't think children will accept them far too much. I'll give you a simple example, sir. As a teacher enters the class, and I'm sure all the teachers out here, and I said my teachers, yes, all my teachers, so out here will support what I say. When I'm sitting in class and I realize the whole class is seemingly very dull, I will crack a joke. My robo cannot do so automatically. I will bust it. For example, I planned to take Solitary Reaper as a poem and I'm going to teach it fully. But when I went to class, perhaps they got their maths papers and they got low marks. The mood is low. Here in a robo, I would have already programmed it. Whether I'm in a mood to receive it or not, I have done my job of delivering. Whereas a teacher never does it. But where I would like to use AI is where a repetitive activity can be stopped. That a boring activity can be stopped. That would be a fact. So the emotions that a teacher has, the care and the love that a elementary section teacher would give her child in class, especially with elementary school children, is something that nobody else can take away. So there is that component of AI coming in, but absolutely no way by which it can replace a teacher. So there are some schools where they have introduced a robo. But so how many times are they going to use that robo? I have my doubt. You ask the children, and they will give you a thumbs up. So they may not like a teacher, but if you say I'm going to replace a teacher with a robo, they'll want the teacher back.
And the last thing is, what would be the right age for the blended education for the students? Because the discussions are there, that is for the higher studies or university
Correct.
level.
I personally would like to say that it's sixth and above would be a better age. The best age would be eighth and above, 13 years and above. They would be mature enough to understand the thing. But yes, I would also say sixth and above, you can do certain amount of technological this thing. But for the younger children, to a large extent, it needs to have face to face. A little bit of help from parents will help them to use technology. But I am not for too much of screen time also. So there has to be a limited use of technology. But at the same time, I don't want them to not know of what's happening in the world and in the field of technology. So by the way of their computer classes, by the way of teaching them something, we should be able to do that. So that blending will happen, but the percentage will be very, very less.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ma'am, since Digay sir has asked you the same question, I would like to ask you further on the same thing. Like in the scenario of last year, uh, mm, we all went online. There was no other platform which was available for us.
Correct.
So right from standard one to standard fourth, or even the primary school, definitely even your school or all the
Yes,
schools in Thane or all the schools over the world have gone for this online education,
correct.
and they have been using different modes and different kind of technologies and different types of apps, like as you say Kahoot, and using the Google Classroom, or using the Jamboards and everything they have been uploading. And the children, I would say that children have adapted so well in
Absolutely.
this time. And at the beginning of uh, the last academic session, it was very difficult for us also and for parents also to understand. These all questions were there in their mind: too much of
Correct.
screen time, and they cannot handle the laptop or the computer, how to give it in their
Correct.
hand, the device. But I will say that they have come a long way.
Absolutely.
They have come a long
So,
way, and they have doing it very nice.
yes, see, in fact, they are so quick at learning. You
Yeah,
don't have to teach them. You just give them that and they will learn. So
they will.
that's the way they are.
Yeah,
Okay. It is we who are a little apprehensive about learning something very new.
yeah, yeah,
So they will adapt themselves, they will do it. But I'm of the opinion that you don't have to compulsory do it
yeah.
if you can bring them to school because they need a lot of physical
Absolutely,
activities.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So, on behalf of Saraswati Mandir Trust and its entire fraternity, I extend a really hearty vote of thanks to our chief guest, Mrs. Revati Srinivasan, who spared time from our busiest schedule to enlighten us. Today, we had an opportunity to hear your thoughts, and this will surely be of invaluable help in the forthcoming challenging times. Your thoughts have enlightened our minds and have shown us a new path. My gratitude to you, ma'am, for gracing the occasion and sharing your thoughts today. I'm immensely thankful to Mrs. Amita Bhagwat for her apt and crisp explanation of our educational platform or the Shikshan Katta. I need to mention my deepest sense of appreciation and extend thanks to all the staff members for their enormous cooperation within the organization for today's Shikshan Katta Pushpa Satve. A special mention to our respected trustees and especially our management trustee, Shri Digesar, a catalyst in stimulating us to do our best. Thank you, sir, for giving us the opportunity to hear the golden words of Revati ma'am. Last but not the least, a big thank you to each one of you for being here with us today. Thank you. Thank you so much. It
Thank you
was
very
a
much
very
for
enriching.
inviting. Thank you very much, Ruta, for
Thank you.
inviting me. I enjoyed talking. I just shared my ideas. I'm no expert, but definitely shared my ideas quite openly. And thank you, Dege sir, for inviting me
You are,
across. It was a
you are
pleasure.
most welcome, and we are expecting you in our school in the next near future. And
Yes, sure.
congratulations, Ruta madam and her team for having a really good show.
Thank you, sir.
Keep it up.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
And
Thank you,
thank you
ma'am.
all
Thank you so
teachers
much.
for being so patient. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.